A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Jesus said to his disciples, "Beware of practicing your piety before people in order to be seen by them, for then you have no reward from your Father in heaven. So when you give alms, do not sound a trumpet before you as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, so that they may be praised by others. Truly, I tell you, they have received their reward. But when you give alms, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your alms may be done in secret. And your Father, who sees in secret, will reward you. And whenever you pray, do not be like the hypocrites, for they love to stand and pray in the synagogues and on the street corners, so that they may be seen by others. Truly, I tell you, they have received their reward. But whenever you pray, go into your room and shut the door, and pray to your Father who is in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. And when you fast, do not look dismal like the hypocrites, for they disfigure their faces so as to show others that they are fasting. Truly, I tell you, they have received their reward. But when you fast, put oil on your head and wash your face, so that your fasting may be seen not by others, but by your Father who is in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you." The Gospel of the Lord. In this Lenten fasting, we also remember and imitate the example of Jesus, who fasted 40 long days in the wilderness as he prepared to begin his life-giving ministry on earth. Lent is a time of prayer, penance, and good works, which are three aspects of one thing. The purpose of fasting and abstinence is not to punish ourselves, nor is it a time of testing our willpower and personal strength, but rather it's to create a space in us for God and a detachment from whatever may keep us at a distance from coming to an ever closer connection to God. This is a beautiful season, and it's a time for God to help us loosen our willfulness and self-focus. The idea that Lent is some kind of a test of our willpower and resolve, our resistance to temptation, actually defeats the real purpose of this time. It's precisely not about our willpower, but rather surrendering our willfulness and self-focus to God's giving and loving will. If we enter into the season with a humble, contrite, and not willful attitude, God's grace will produce wonderful fruits in us that will last. Overcoming sin and defeating habits is not about willpower, since it is our willfulness and the imperfection of our ability to will all that is good for us without God's help that often leads us to falling into things we know are harmful to us and to others. Imagine an army that tries to fortify its castle, focusing on only the outside, making sure that the walls and doors are strong and resistant to attack. But the enemy is constantly looking for gaps in the fortress, even tiny flaws where the armor is weak or imperfect. Then they can break through these gaps, and once inside, they can wreak havoc. The idea of Lent is not to build a powerful external armor, so that if there is a flaw, we're hopeless inside. And a lot of these things are coming from inside, from a heart that's not entirely given over to God. Lent is allowing God's grace and the virtues and gospel to fill us up from the inside out, fill our hearts and minds, so that if the enemy found a gap, they'd come inside and the heart would be completely filled with Jesus' values, that there was simply no room for them and they'd have to retreat. So we rely not merely on outward shields, as if the inner life is so completely weak that it would fall at once when breached. In self-denial and in giving of time to more prayer and good works, our hearts move ever closer to God. Distractions like excess food or other things that take up our time and energy are avoided, helping us to become more focused and attentive and more charitable. Let's read and pray with God's Word in the Scriptures even more in this season, because this living Word is the source of our grace and life. And also let's read and reflect on the enormous resources of the lives and wisdom of the saints who have before us heroically shown how to allow God's grace to fill us up and transform us and grow in holiness and love. Let our heartfelt prayer this year be, Lord, help us to be true ambassadors for you in our words and actions. Lord, let no one look at our lives and actions and ask, where is your God? Let our love and practical charity shine out with the answer. During Lent, we give to the excellent cause of Project Compassion, run by the Catholic charity Caritas, which of course means love in action. May this and so many ordinary and everyday acts of kindness, patience, forbearance, mercy, practical help, and compassion fill our minds and hearts with Jesus' loving heart. For Project Compassion, you can visit www.caritas.org.au/project-compassion for more information and for donation options. Lent is a 6-week gift to the Church from God as a time of nurturing positive habits of prayer, self-denial and giving of our time and resources for worthy causes, to build up our spiritual health and build up good habits and attitudes that become so automatic and natural to us that we do them without hesitation and for no other reason than our love for God, so that, as the reading says today, our left hand doesn't even know what our right hand is doing, but what it is doing is something good and for God. The gospel has a lot of wisdom in it. Those things that are done for no other reason but the love of God, and not for anything else, not for notice, not for reward in this life, not for people's admiration, actions done purely for the glory and praise of God alone. This is close to the nature and heart of God. This is also at the heart of the Gospels and of our faith. It's the source of lasting truth. So let's make this time of Lent the wonderful joy-filled gift that it really is, a time of peaceful self-denial and making space for God, fostering positive habits that will last well beyond 40 days. And may God, who has begun this good work in us, bring it to perfection in the secret of our own hearts.